Okay, I'm going to do this video. I was trying to do the whole book and I can't. It's just too long. And I'll be honest with you, I found this inspiration on Anna's Paper Creations. There is not a tutorial for this one. She does a couple of different, like a journal. And I loved it. So what I did is I just looked at hers and made my own pages. There's not a tutorial. I made it as I went along, but I've been asked to do a tutorial, so let me grab some. This book doesn't use any magnets, which is really nice. It uses the cutouts from the Time to Flourish line, and what you can do is use those as your closures. So you have a lot of journaling room. I'm just going to show you this first page, so I can, I'm winging this. Like I said, I don't even have measurements, so we're going to do it as we go along. So each page, you'll have 6 of these pages are the same. It's a very heavy book, and I'll give you all the measurements for your chipboard, but we won't be making it. Cutouts, I did the same on each one, so you'll know. You'll just cut out the calendar part. You'll cut out apart each piece of your 12 by 12. This is all done using 12 by 12 and some 8 by 8s. Then you just take your January, you decide what you want for your background and coordinates. These are again just from the 12 by 12 cutouts. And when you open it, then we have a page there. We have the back side of this front flap. Again, 12 by 12 cutouts, just made this little pocket. And I did have to use quite a bit of gluing on this one. And then just the little flap that comes up. You can fussy cut, you can, you know, leave it plain if you like for pictures. And I do have a full video on this one, and you can go through the video, and that way if you want to look at how I decorated the pages in the book, again, that holds that flap shut. It's a heavy book, fun book, so I'm going to have to refer back and forth as I'm doing this video for measurements. Now let's get started. So each page in this book measures 5.5 by 8. So I did not at the time have 12 by 12 paper. I was completely out, but I wanted to get started. So I used 8.5 by 11 paper, and that's what we're going to use for everything. I'll leave the book over here sort of for a reference. We can go back and forth. So the first step is doing your page is take your 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and cut it down to 8. You can leave it 8.5 if you want and just change your dimensions, but for the video it might be a little more difficult. So cut each page 8.5, take an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper and cut it down to 8 inches by 11 inches. Then with your scoreboard, and I've already pre-scored because I started to do this and then I thought I've got to do it as we go. You're going to score it at 5.5. So once you score it at 5.5, then we're going to turn it over. Now, for my book, I did not want any top-loading pockets. It's going to be too heavy. You'll find out as you're going. So I don't have any of the pockets. Now, for the front of your page, we have the flap that comes over. So now we're going to cut that piece. And like I said, I have to measure as we go, and it's 5.5. By a little over 6 1/4. Now let me tell you too, when I was making this book, I did a lot of cutting after I put my pages together. So we want it to be 5.5 by about 6.5. So you're going to have to cut it 5.5 by 7. So let me cut a 5.5 by 7 piece of paper. Because we want to have a score mark of 1/2 inch. So now, like I said, you're going to probably have to do a lot of on hands here. And maybe changing up. But this is what I do when I'm doing a book and I don't have a tutorial. So I'm looking at this. Let me get up here, black's hard. And now I'm going to take this 5.5 by 7 inch piece of paper and I'm going to score it at this edge. It doesn't matter. Just score it at 1/2 inch. Now, this is going to go along this edge, and I'll attach it here in a minute. And see, I already goofed up. It's going to, and I'm not going to start over again because this is a very intricate one to play out. So, cut that paper at 6 by 6 1/4. Sorry about the goof up, but I have started this so many times. So we're going to go 6 by 6 1/4. We need that room for the pocket on the bottom. And you'll notice my cardstock's a little different. I'm just using scraps and pieces. There we go. Now I can go ahead and score my top flap at 1/2 inch. This is when I was making the book, because like I mentioned, I did not know the dimensions. I have no idea. I didn't even notice if she had a tutorial. She doesn't even have a tutorial. She doesn't sell her tutorials. She's a wonderful lady. So that looks like that's going to fit. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this piece with my score tape. And yes, I used a lot of score tape, and then I also did use a lot of wet glue on this one. Okay. Now the wet glue I use is something that's new and I'm bringing into the store, and I've actually been buying the big bottles. I use it for my wood projects when I'm putting my family pictures onto wooden blocks of wood, and it is called, it's actually wood glue. It's perfectly safe for pictures. It does not list that it's archival safe, but I've had no trouble with it. And I do not Mod Podge. I use this. It dries clear, it dries fast, it's sandable, and let me tell you, you can get a 4-ounce bottle from me for $3.95. It sure does beat the price of that little 2-ounce bottle of Scotch glue, which I was paying $7 for. So okay, there is the front that's going to open. Now we need to go ahead and close this bottom, and this is where your wet glue, and don't look, my pages may not be perfect. So let's take our wet glue and open our bottle here. Now when using the wet glue, you want to use very little. Clean that off, and I hold my page just a little bit so that I have that room, because I know it's going to go on my binding. And when I do go to insert it onto the hinge, if there's a problem, I just force it open a little bit. Then, like I said, I did not want a tag at the top, so I'm also going to close the top of my page. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of room down there. Some crafters like to do that just before you're putting it on the hinge. Totally up to you. So now we need to make our flaps. We have this bottom piece, and the bottom pieces on each of these pages measure. They're 1.5 inches, so we're going to cut it 2 inches wide by 6.5 long. Now this is also where I had to do a little bit of adjustments. So let's go ahead and cut it 2 inches wide. Because we need that 1/2 inch score mark. Sorry, my cutter's over to the left. That's why I'm out of the screen. And we're going to cut it 6.5 inches long. Now what I did, I took it at the mark just before because I wanted it to fit perfect. So let's go ahead and we're going to score along. And we're going to score along this bottom edge at 1/2 inch. And then we're going to score on each sides at 1/2 inch. So you'll have these 3 score lines, just like your regular big pocket. And as always, I fold in my ends and I make sure I've got a good fit. We do. Now this is where I had to do some adjustments on this page. But it looks like we're going to be good. So let's go ahead and put our pocket down. And I did go through and I made all 6 of my pages first, of course. And before I put them in the book, I did decorate them. So you can see with as many steps as this book has, why I am not going to do a whole tutorial on it, on every single page and with the decorating. It's a lot of repeating. And if you can do this first page, you'll be great. And what I'll do is I am going to post, forgot to cut, I'm going to post the measurements down below on your pages so that you'll have them. So just like any other pocket, we're going to go ahead and now this one will attach to this big long page. So when this is closed, then you're going to be able to put the tags there. That's how that will sit. Now we need to have a pocket on this side, and that pocket is also going to be 1.5 inches long, and we're going to do it at about 7 1/4. So let's do it 7 1/4 long. If I've got any scratch here. So I'm going to cut it at 7 1/4. Again, I'm going to cut it at 2 inches. Okay, this is going to go this way. Again, let's score 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch along the bottom, and 1/2 inch on that side. Once you get your pages made, actually the album goes quite quick, and it's a fun album. Again, I like to fold my ends. I want to make sure we're going to fit. And it is a little short. So what I do, okay, when I've made my pockets and see it's too short on this end, I just take it right where that, and I just refold it about 1/4 inch. Now it will make this flap shorter, but you know what, you're not going to see this either. I know you may think that you're going to, but you're not. You're going to cover it in pattern paper. So if you ever have to adjust your pockets, that's the quickest way without wasting your paper, and no one's going to see it anyway. And what's nice is there are a lot of ways to cover up paper mistakes. That's what I like. So now I'm going to have to use my 1/4 inch here, and I've got ribbon everywhere. I've been making banners. So okay, let's go ahead and cut our corners. Now you're going to have to kind of look at that one, because remember I readjusted mine, and you'll have to probably readjust yours. So on your future, if you're going to use these exact measurements, you're going to just make this pocket on the front door, I call this the front door, make it just about 1/8 inch longer. Or you can just kind of adjust your fold. Whoops, we want it to be the smaller size. There we go. Okay, let's put this one. Yeah, there we go. Give me a little trouble because it was cut a little bit shorter. This top piece is piece of basil cardstock I have. You know, I just don't like it. I don't know. Yours, mine's not laying very flat because I kind of messed up that end, but yours will lay flat. It'll be fine. So there we have the front pocket for the January portion to go in. So when I matted everything, and I just made sure it just had that little 1/8 to 1/4 inch on the edges, and then see how this will go in there. Okay, now we have to make a flap for this top piece. What I did is, again, I just measured. So we're going to cut it 6 inches. Let's double check the book. And my flap is 3. So we're going to go 6 inches by 3.5 inches. And you'll make 5 of those. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and this does have a score line. That was that first one I messed up on. So we have 1/2 inch here, and that's all you'll need. Don't cut this back up. We're not doing a side. Sorry. We're going to cut it exactly the same, 5.5 inches. So if you cut that, sorry, just cut that 1/2 inch off. I'm sorry. I'm still in the pocket, my brain. And I have to adjust it just a little bit. This is going to be one of those books where you will be doing some adjustments because I don't have the, like I mentioned, this is just me making a book as usual. I don't buy tutorials, and I guess I should start making videos as I'm making the books, but it's all hit and miss for me. It's whatever I'm feeling like at the moment, and if I see a picture, I'll make it. Okay, that one goes at the top. And then down here is, after you decorate your page, you'll cut out your postage stamps. And you'll do 3 postage stamps and then 1 in the middle if you like. So then you'll put your tag in and it will hold this flap shut. Then you have this flap. So let's just put everything back together. And I used on your 12 by 12, after I cut off the January, off the calendar part, it leaves you this nice little postcard. And it just fits nicely in there. And then over here, again, everything's just from your 12 by 12. You have your flap that we just made. Postage stamps. Whoops. Then we're going to close our book. And our calendar journaling piece will go back in. Another card and another tag as you choose. And so that's the front page. Now let's do our back page. Now the back page has a little bit of a gusset because I wanted this to have lots of room. So we're going to do the bottom piece the same way. It's going to be 2 inches by 6.5. And then we're going to cut this top flap, and I'll show you that one right now. So for that piece, let's turn our page over. We're going to cut our paper. I cut mine 7 1/4 by 5.5. So you want this to be 7 1/4 inches long by 5.5. And our first score mark is going to be at 1 inch. So we're going to score this at 1 inch. Oops, sorry, let me move over here. So what I do is I scored it at 1 inch, and then I scored it at 3/4. So we kind of went backwards. 1 and then 3, or you can go 3/4 and 1. That will give you the gusset at the top of your book. Now we're going to go ahead and tape at the 1 inch mark. And let me use 1/4 inch. I used 2 pieces of 1/4 inch tape. This book is heavy, and you don't want to take any chances of anything falling off or apart. And I did use the Hobby Lobby. I buy the heavy duty. It costs more, but on sale it's great. So when you're putting this piece down, you want to make sure that you're having your 1 inch line up with the top of the page. Because you want your gusset to be like that. So I put the 1 inch on the page, and then you have a nice gusset there. So, and then you'll just straighten it up a little bit. Make your folds nice, and it'll straighten up too as you're working on it. Okay, down here we want to do that 2 inch. We're going to cut it 2 inches by 6.5. So let me go ahead and cut my piece at 6.5 by 2. And again, we're going to score along the 3 edges at 1/2 inch. And let's go ahead and fold up our edges. Make sure we fit, and we do. When I was doing the video, it went, oh my goodness, it went for quite a long time, and it would not upload, and that's when I said, okay, we need to just do this page, and you should be okay from here. The nice thing, while I was making the book, I wanted to make sure I didn't have tons of different measurements when I came to the next page. So I made sure all of my little flaps are the 2 inches, so they'd be 1.5 finished. And this is where your month will go. So see, that will close, and you'll be able to put your month in there. And then again, for the top pocket that's going to go across here, they're all the same size as the front. It's going to be 6.5 by 3.5. Let's get one of my scraps here. And we're going to score again 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/2 inch. And again, I'm going to make sure it fits. It should. And it's going to be sitting down here at the bottom. I'm trying to be really careful. This cardstock I'm using is not very heavy. It's not one that I would use for a book, only for matting, because it isn't strong. I did again, forgot to cut our corners. Okay, good thing we're not using this book, because our score tape just adhered. And you're going to see a big tear mark, but we're not using it, so we're good. It's just for tutorial purposes. And if any of you make videos, you'll totally understand when you don't want to start over again. Okay. I did do a video, though, on the finished book in my YouTube, so go ahead and after you make your pages, if you want to use that to decorate or use your own ideas, you know, you can just pull up my video and decorate it as you go. And now we've got our page. So this is where your pocket, where you'll put a few more little of the tags, and I used almost all of the cutouts, and that's where the little postcard one will go when your page is closed. The calendar will sit here, and then I used a couple of at least three of the cutouts to weigh it down, and then that was that finished page. And so each page is exactly the same. You're going to have your bottom pocket, side pocket, oh, some of the score tape got on. Oh, there we go. Got on. That's okay. It overlapped. Then we have this page with the pocket, and then you'll have your little flap here. And then when you turn it over, we have our flap. And go ahead and make 6 of these. You're going to want 6 of these pages. Because this is a much bigger book, when I did my hinges, I scored it. There's a 1/2 inch gusset. You're going to have a 1/2 inch gusset. So you're going to score. You're not going to score if you're doing the hidden hinge type binding. You're going to score it 1/2 inch all the way. You're not going to do quarter, half, half, quarter, half, half, quarter. You're going to do all halves. And if you need help with that, actually I have a video where I did a binding this last night. You can look up my beginner's mini album, and I show you how to make the hinge. I do want to tell you though, your spine will be much larger. This one will have, so you're going to need to cut your chipboard about 3 3/4. That's how wide that is. And then our chipboard covers, I cut those at 6.5 by 8.5. So our cover is 6.5 by 8.5. And the pockets, I just cut the plain chipboard, or not chipboard, sorry, cardstock. Then I scored them 1/2 inch on each side and made my pockets for the front and the back, which they're identical. I just used a different paper, and I did fussy cut some of the flowers off of the leftover pages, and that's what I made to hold these tags. And so I hope that helps, and I hope that can help you get started with your book. And I am available on Facebook at Country Craft Creations in Hooper. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to help you with the construction of your book. Thanks for watching.